Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go pack go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will.
Good evening and welcome into Lombardi's Legends podcast. I am Wags, and with me, as always, is Dane. Dane, how you doing, man? It's been a minute, but just had to jump on and get some observations with training camp in full swing. But how you doing tonight, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining either the live or the podcast. I'm doing great, man. It's Packer football's back. Family night is in the books. We're recording this on Tuesday, August 5th. And man, football season's football season, right? It's so good to have the pads cracking and a lot of really great stuff, I think, out of this team thus far. It's early, right? It's early. We haven't seen any preseason games yet, but there's some really promising things. I'm really excited about some of these young guys that are out there. Some of the more established vets are doing what we expect them to do. But Wags, I'm just excited to be on, excited to chat with you a little bit about what we're seeing so far. And maybe we talk a bit too about what fans and folks listening to this podcast might want to look for in the coming weeks of preseason football, because I think that that's always important too. But just doing great. How are you doing, man? Happy Tuesday.
Doing really well. Folks, if you're joining our live stream, either on our YouTube or Facebook channel, feel free to say hello, pop into the chat. It's been a minute since we've been able to do a live podcast. I did some off-season interviews, so as you're gearing up for the season, if you haven't listened to those yet, go back, give those a listen to some of the guys that we had on as guests in the offseason. Guessing there'll be names that you might be seeing, particularly in the preseason. So good to catch up on that content as well. But Dane, why don't we just start with not necessarily a surprise, but I think someone that deserves a category unto himself. First round pick, Matthew Golden, has really been coming on strong in camp here over the last week and a half in particular. And I think what's really good to see, and I'm going to tee you up on this for some of your thoughts and observations, but seems like he's quickly building some chemistry and rapport with Jordan Love and is getting a lot of run with the ones. And I mean, I know Christian Watson is still coming back from injury, but for Matthew Golden, even as a first round pick, to jump right in there, and it looks like he's going to be a big part of this offense right off the bat. So eager to see him in some game atmosphere in preseason. But Dane, what are some of the observations or some of the things that you've been seeing and hearing that should get fellow Packer fans excited about what Matthew Golden has been able to do so far in camp?
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on, Wags. I mean, he's come in and he's done what I don't want to say expect, what you hope a first round pick will do, which is, take care of business and, be explosive. We haven't had a first round wide receiver. We all know the story there in a long time, but Wags, I can't recall the last time we've seen a rookie. Yes, I know it's early, but just kind of come in, run the routes the way he's running. His route tree looks extremely crisp. This is a Packers defense, and you always expect in training camp the defense to be a little ahead of the offense, but defense has played really good ball. However, it doesn't seem like anybody's really been able to cover Matthew Golden. And I'm not just talking in team. I'm talking the one-on-ones, and Golden's gone against everybody. He's gone against Nixon. He's gone against Hobbs. He's gone against Valentine, right? He's gone against every kind of iteration you can imagine defensively, and he's just looked the part. And you said it. Jordan Love looks his way. Golden not only runs good routes, but he also has extremely good hands. He's been able to catch balls, point of attack. He's getting open. He's making plays. He's making plays down the sideline. He's playing outside and doing his thing. So yes, it's early. That's one of the things we want to be watching once preseason starts, and the reps are live against other teams and other players, but I will say that so far it's been really exciting and really promising to see, because Wags, we've lived through Packer first round picks where, you hold out hope that things take off and sometimes they kind of just stay steady. It's not every day that a young guy comes out and just kind of makes a jaw-dropping play every single practice. And that's the thing that's most exciting to me about Matthew Golden, is that it seems like every single practice, it's not like a flash here or there. It's consistent that he's somebody who's just making plays, and Jordan Love already seems to be extremely comfortable looking his direction.
Yeah, and I think consistency is always the key. It'll be interesting to see as a young player if he's able to continue to do that. Speaking of consistency, Romeo Dobbs has also just been playing at a very, very high level here in camp as well, with the level of play and consistency that he's bringing. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think one of the things that we can truly get excited about, not just as fans of the Packers and Matthew Golden, and hopefully for the success of this Packers offense this season, is that I think the chemistry that Matthew Golden seems to be establishing with Jordan Love as a downfield threat is a dimension that, regardless of what level of consistency he's able to deliver, down in, down out, on some of his shorter intermediate routes. And I think he'll have moments where he'll definitely get his, but there'll probably be moments as a rookie and with a lot of mouths to feed that he may not get as many looks. However, that consistent downfield threat is something that has definitely been missing in this Packer offense since Jordan Love's been the quarterback. We've seen times where it's been clicking. Late in Jordan Love's first full season as a starter, it seemed like things were really clicking downfield a little bit more. At times, just not with a lot of consistency last year. Christian Watson has had some big moments. He's had some injuries and had some inconsistency. So I'm glad you brought up the consistency word, because that's a part of this offense that I think has been sorely missing. And certainly if Christian Watson gets healthy, he potentially brings that. But quite honestly, he's just not been someone that I think we've been able to really rely on as a downfield threat, game in and game out. So, and Jordan Love, by all accounts, seems to be more accurate with his downfield throws as well so far this camp than he has been in previous camps. Certainly it helps if he's more fully healthy than he was all of last season. But that is something that could make a big difference in what this offense is able to do. Certainly with Josh Jacobs is going to get a ton of reps running the ball. But if you can run the ball pretty well and you can beat teams vertically pretty consistently, we've got a lot of guys that can run those intermediate routes. I didn't obviously mention Dontavian Wicks. Certainly, I think Mecole Hardman, I don't know how many looks he's going to get as an offensive player, but he's getting a lot of looks in camp so far. He's going to be on this team. And when Christian Watson comes back, he's not going to lose looks and getting the ball thrown his way as well. So, we've got the players. It's just a matter of if everybody can establish that role. And that's, I think, what I'm really excited about, seeing if Matthew Golden can continue to develop that chemistry as a downfield threat.
Yeah, I completely agree, Wags. And I mean, Wicks has been down, right? He's been hurt as well. And it's a shame because, I think that we both are still really high on him, but the silver lining of that is Golden is just getting a ton of reps right now with Jordan Love. And I think that is pretty useful for him. We'll see how it shakes out. It's still, even with Christian Watson, I assume not coming back to start the year, he'll start the year on the PUP. It's still a crowded room, right? There's still a lot of competition on the back end. We talk about Mecole Hardman, but also Malik Heath is a guy who Packers like. So there's a lot to be shaken out there. But it's exciting to see a first round pick just making waves every single day. There's no other way to put it. So I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but my gosh, it's exciting to have a guy, because we're looking for that guy, right? In the offense right now, because I think we both really love what Jaden Reed can do in the slot, but can you imagine having some more consistency with a guy who can stretch the field and make plays? It would open up this offense to that next level.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Dane, let's kind of shift gears. I don't know if we're ready to get into surprises of camp, but let's take a look at a few other key players and key camp battles. Let's stick on the offense and looking at left tackle. It seems to be a dead heat between Jordan Morgan and Rashid Walker. Obviously, Rashid has been out here the last few days of practice, nursing a groin injury, but by all accounts, Jordan Morgan is getting more and more looks at left tackle with the ones, particularly with Walker out. I know last week Walker got chewed out a bit by Coach LaFleur and had an old school lap to run that his teammates joined him on. But truly, this seems like a good development, Dane, is from what I can see and what I've been watching and observing. But what are your thoughts so far on this big? This is not a small camp battle here at left tackle between Rashid Walker and Jordan Morgan.
Yeah, I mean it's not at all, but we're going to need both of those guys. Is where I'm at some point this season, right? Whether it's at left tackle or otherwise. The Packers were more than fortunate last year to have the continuity they had across the offensive line for the entire season. One of the kind of the big recipes to their success last year was the fact that they had those same five guys just kind of rolling out there pretty much week to week. That's not normally the case. Packers spent the draft capital on Jordan Morgan. They don't want him on the bench, right? I mean, you don't spend a first round pick to have him be a swing tackle. Let's just be real. That's not the case. That being said, Rashid Walker's really impressed me over the last number of years. He's a 6th round pick. He's got a lot of starting experience for the Packers. And he's somebody that whenever competition comes his way, he doesn't shrink, right? He just meets it head on. And we've watched him grow over the years, and he's gotten better and better and better. I think that the thing that kind of the buzzword with Rashid Walker, when you listen to the coaches speak, is that word consistency. Again, it's him, being consistent every single snap, and they see it more than we do. I'm really high on him still. I think that he's a really good left tackle. I think he's going to get better in this league. The business side of it is where it gets particularly interesting, right? And that's where, if it's close, if it's truly, truly close, Jordan Morgan might be the left tackle of the Green Bay Packers this season, right? Because he's under contract longer with the first-round pedigree. Rashid Walker's going into free agency after this season. It's the cruel reality, I think, of professional sports in the NFL, is that if it's close, they're going to go with the high draft pick, and they're going to go with the guy who's going to be less expensive next season. So it's going to play out. But I'll tell you what, if I were a betting man, I actually do believe Rashid Walker is the left tackle going into this year. I think he's been better than Jordan Morgan. Jordan still, I think, definitely getting reps in at right guard as well. So I think there's going to be a place for Jordan Morgan along this offensive line. But this is one of those things where we're talking about this on August 5th. And in 2 weeks, we might have a very different perspective, even after a couple preseason games, because, I do expect this battle to kind of go on over the next number of weeks. And it's going to be, I would argue, probably the must-watch position battle of camp is left tackle right now, because it completely helps develop what this entire offensive line looks like. But I'll say going into it, I think it's Rashid Walker's to give up. He hasn't done anything to give it up. And I think that continues to get better. And, he's somebody that I think is just the Packers feel like they're going to be able to rely on long-term. Not that Morgan isn't, but I think there's other places where Jordan Morgan could potentially play this season and still make an impact.
Yeah, Dane. One other thing I'm going to ask about on the offense, and then maybe we can go over to defense and get into some, surprises / guys that are standing out so far. But I just want to briefly touch on the running back group. It looks like Emmanuel Wilson escaped an injury scare. Marshawn Lloyd is on the rack again now with a groin injury. Not that this necessarily looks like it's a long-term concern, but I mean, what are your thoughts here? Two primary backups to Josh Jacobs, who was, incredibly healthy last year, even with a huge workload. Any concern here for the running back group? And maybe this is an opportunity to get a first observation or discussion on guys we should be watching for in the preseason, because we could be going deep on this running back depth chart if Wilson and Marshawn Lloyd are not ready to go in some of these preseason games, or especially with Wilson maybe getting limited work. We know Josh Jacobs isn't going to get a ton of preseason work. So any names that you're kind of keeping your eye on with this running back group, first of all, and then just overall, any concern with the depth and kind of where we're at injury-wise with this running back group?
That's a great question, and I'll be curious yours as well. When we other guys that are popping out, but my concern is the talent levels there. In fact, I would argue, if all things were equal and healthy, the Packers have 4 running backs that are like NFL quality week 1. And then there's some other guys that potentially could be that we just haven't had a chance to really look, get a really good look at in game speed yet. The concern comes with the injury. I would argue that, obviously Josh Jacobs is RB1. Marshawn Lloyd seems to have all the talent in the world, but this injury stuff, he's had the worst luck that I can remember in the last number of years of a player, just like injury after injury. You mentioned Wilson. Chris Brooks, though, is just a good football player. So he's really fascinating to watch, Wags, because I think that he's probably the best, not probably, he's the best pass blocker out of the running back group. He's getting a lot of run as a core special teamer right now, early in camp, which you always want to look at there. So the Packers are going to have to make, I think, a pretty tough decision because I don't see a scenario where the Packers carry 4 running backs going in. It's just a pretty stacked depth chart across the board. For them to do that, they could do it, but it could be kind of a tough thing to do. But you're right. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for guys over the next couple of weeks. Somebody that really stands out, and I think he's somebody that you singled out as well, is I really want to see what Amar Johnson can do. With snaps and in the preseason. He runs hard. He looks like a strong runner. He's out of South Dakota State, which produces a lot of guys that are just NFL ready. So he's the guy I think so far that really sticks out to me. But I do want to put it back on you, Wags. I mean, this is theoretically a crowded depth chart, but this is going to be tough if Marshawn Lloyd in particular can't get right. That's going to be a year plus, right? And I don't know if the Packers, I'm not saying he's getting cut. I just don't know how the Packers handle, or maneuver around there. It might mean that they they have another guy on the practice squad. I'm not really sure what they do. So what do you say on this position group? Like, how do the Packers navigate this situation, especially with 2 guys now that theoretically could be on the 53 looking to be pretty banged up?
Yeah, maybe it's someone that's not on this roster yet too, but it's going to be interesting. I think certainly it makes sense to me that the Packers are going to give extended looks to some of these guys deeper on the depth chart, because unless they think about a couple years ago, that was Emmanuel Wilson, and he still was someone that I believe Packers were able to stash on the practice squad after he popped in preseason, because there's running backs all over the league that do this in the preseason, and there's only so many roster spots. So very few of them end up getting cut and getting picked up on a 53-man roster after a strong training camp, unless there's just tape that really pops and stands out. But then most teams are smart enough to not expose a player like that to waivers. So And here's the thing. I agree with you on Chris Brooks, but I think backers kind of know what they have in Chris Brooks. So I don't know that he's going to get a ton of work necessarily in the preseason either. Certainly, they got to give him enough of a chance to show what he can do and fight for a spot on this roster. But I mean, I think a couple of other guys that you didn't mention, Israel Abanaconda, third-year guy out of Pittsburgh. And then Jalen White, who's a rookie out of Georgia Southern, are, guys that probably normally wouldn't necessarily get a lot of work in the preseason because I'm sure they still want to see what Marshawn Lloyd can do, get him in game condition. He's got very few game reps at the pro level. I don't know if he has any game reps at the pro level, Dane.
I don't either. I don't. So, maybe a couple touches.
He missed all preseason last year. So unless I'm not remembering if he got a few reps in the game before he got hurt, but the reality is that I think they kind of know what they have in Emmanuel Wilson too. So it may make sense to give some of these other guys, some of these quote unquote no-name guys that are deep on the roster, extra work here in the preseason. See if one of them stands out, and then they can be their default practice squad early season call up if there's injuries, if either Wilson or Marshawn Lloyd are not ready to go. You mentioned what do they do with Marshawn Lloyd? I honestly don't know that he's a guarantee to make the roster. I know he was a third-round pick last year, but injury, bad luck or not, they always say, being healthy is also a skill in this league. And at a certain point, as unfortunate as it would be, I don't know how much the Packers can continue to invest in someone that quite simply just cannot stay on the football field. And they've got other guys that are able and ready to get out there and perform and contribute. It just makes it a really tough call to evaluate someone in that position. So we'll see if this groin injury is something that he's able to return from in the next week or so and get some reps and some extended look out there in preseason work. But if not, I think this running back position is definitely one to keep an eye on. It could just be a 2 running back, on the 53. And then perhaps I know Brooks was on the practice squad for some of last year as well. So there may be a couple guys that they just stash ready to call up and use some of those practice squad call-ups and call them up to 53-man roster if needed over the course of the season. So low key, I think this running back depth in this running back group is as high as I am on some of the talent. I mean, we can't necessarily count on Josh Jacobs. It starts to get thin in a hurry in terms of game experience. If Josh Jacobs goes down, and even if he misses just a little bit of time with an injury at some point this season.
Wags, and memory serves me correct, the Packers, there's a history back there too, under Goody and LaFleur of keeping 2 running backs a couple seasons ago. Patrick Taylor, of course, being the practice squad guy who then ended up getting called up a bunch and, with injuries ended up being on the 50 eventually for most of the year. But as you said, I mean, running back, there's a lot of talented running backs out there. So potentially a couple guys get stashed on the practice squad, to your point, right? Because what's hard is, I hear fans out there and I get it. They go like, well, they keep 4 running backs. And it's like, well, that means that's 1 less corner, right? And that's 1 less pass route. Like the math needs to math too. And it's really hard when you start to look seriously at this depth chart. It's hard to make some of these cuts. I would argue there's about 58 guys right now. The last time I checked where I go, whew, once you get to 57, 58, it is hard to get to 53. And that's not even taking into account all the other teams' cuts and if somebody else comes on and the math that happens there. So I think that's a really astute observation on your part.
Awesome. All right, let's go over the defense. And I think, again, kind of just highlighting a position group. I'm actually going to start with linebacker, which isn't necessarily a position group we oftentimes highlight. But Quay Walker is back at practice, was doing 11-on-11 drills today, and looks like he's ramping up and should be fully ready here over the course of the rest of camp for the season opener. But Edwin Cooper, by all accounts, has just taken off from where he left off last season and then taken it to a whole nother level. And I know a lot of folks are really interested to see Isaiah McDuffie as a former first-round pick.
Isaiah Simmons.
Isaiah Simmons.
The other Isaiah.
I said Isaiah McDuffie. Yeah. I'm sorry. Obviously, he had a fine season last year. Isaiah Simmons is also in the mix that we want to see as a new guy. Thank you, Dane. I got my Isaiahs mixed up. But by all accounts, Tyron Hopper, who was a draft pick and coming into his second season, has had some moments where he's really been flashing in camp as well. So suddenly, a position group that we couldn't seem to figure out for years is looking like it's got an embarrassment of riches in terms of young talent. So Dane, just overall thoughts and observations, who's standing out in this group? I don't think we expect Tyron Hopper to jump all the way up into a position where he's going to be competing for a starting job. But just when you think about the depth and the potential that this could bring, and maybe all of a sudden, cornerback is maybe looking a little better than people thought it would. We'll get to that in a little bit, but maybe it's a linebacker, the middle of this defense, that is really what anchors, the performance of this defense this season and moving forward.
Without a doubt, the most depth I would say this Packers defense has had at the linebacker position in I can't remember since that long, right? We've been waiting on pins and needles to see Cooper and Quay side by side in this defense, something that they're kind of like two ships passing in the night. Last season, we saw Quay Walker, I thought, played his best professional football last year when he was healthy. Then we saw Cooper's ascension, and unfortunately, they just kind of never were able to put it together at the same time. Make no mistake, those two together, I have extremely high expectations for those two right away. Then you put in somebody like Isaiah McDuffie, who, I hear the fans frustrated with maybe he's not the most athletic linebacker. He's a tackle machine, though, Wags, who puts his nose in there. He makes plays. He's better than Blake Martinez was. I'm just going to say it. Like, Blake Martinez was like a tackle guy, like 4 yards downfield. Go back and listen to our podcast, folks, from 7 years ago. You'll hear our thoughts on Blake Martinez. Isaiah McDuffie, gets his nose there. He's in the right position to make a play. He's a good football player. And then really the wild card here, you mentioned Hooper. I'm excited about Hopper. I'm excited about him, but Simmons, the rap on him, he was the 6th overall pick a number of years ago from the Arizona Cardinals. The rap on him is that he never really found a home defensively. He played a little bit safety. He played in the slot a little bit. He played linebacker, right? And that's a testament to his athleticism, but sometimes, jack of all trades, master of none. The Packers, the reason he signed here is because Hafley and this defense want to put him in one position and see what he can do and see if he can do it well. I think the knock on him that I've seen from fans of other teams he's been on is that when the pads come on, he's not always the most capable tackler. So that's the thing that I want to see going into this year. Now that the pads are on, is, he's fast as hell. He moves really well. He seems really smart. Is he going to be able to put it together in Green Bay? I'm optimistic he can, Wags. And if there's a scenario where we've got 3 linebackers on the field and it's somehow Isaiah Simmons, Quay Walker, and Edwin Cooper, that is one of the fastest linebacking cores in the NFL, point blank. So they're going to be able to cover ground. They're going to be able to hit. So I'm really optimistic about that core 5, and I really do think it's 5 when we talk about last year's 3rd round pick Hopper, and we talk about Simmons. We talk about this. That's a core 5 right now at linebacker that I think is very formidable. and that I'd be almost surprised if in different scenarios, once the season actually starts, or even in camp here, if Hafley doesn't want to give different guys different looks at different points, right? Hafley comes from a background with linebackers. He works with linebackers. This is kind of a dream scenario cooking here in Green Bay. Athletic guys that like to hit, that are smart, that get to the ball fast in this defense. I think that last year we saw the start of what Hafley was looking to do, but this year we seem to have the guys in place that I think are going to be able to do, really do what he's looking to accomplish. And to your point, Wags, it's having guys that can move sideline to sideline, that can hit the running back, that can hit the quarterback, and that can stay with the tight end. It's a modern day era of the NFL. So I think that we've got a modern day linebacking group here in Green Bay for the first time that I can ever remember.
Yeah, and I think with Hopper and Simmons in particular, it's going to be interesting to see if they are able to contribute special team, because that's probably going to be a pathway. Not necessarily that they wouldn't make the 53 without being consistent stalwarts on special teams. But one guy we didn't mention is Christian Wells, and he's definitely a special team stalwart. I don't know if that's a guarantee that he makes a 53-man roster, but if Hopper and Simmons are able to show that they can contribute there, get downfield, make plays, make tackles, that can carry over. Because Isaiah McDuffie was someone that was a standout in special teams before he got more opportunities in base defense to get additional snaps. So with the new kickoff rules, I think Packers kept more linebackers last season, and it's certainly a possibility that they take at least 5, if not 6, again this season, depending on kind of where other position groups shake out on this 53-man roster. All right, Dane, I'm just going to do open-ended because we could take this in a couple of different directions. Any other surprises or standouts? I think there's a few guys that certainly could come to mind, but I'm just going to make it completely open-ended. Where do you want to go with other guys to highlight or discuss on the defensive side of football?
Yeah, just a couple of guys that I've noticed. Brenton Cox Jr. has been on fire. Edge rusher here. It's a competitive edge group with some of the draft picks, of course. But he's somebody that's really stood out to me. Some might argue that it's between he and Enig Barre and, maybe Aaron Mosby to make the 53. I think Brenton Cox Jr. is the guy who's really making waves right now. He plays just violent. He's a violent football player, somebody who would have been a much higher draft pick, I think, if there wasn't some concerns after some stuff in college, but it's past him. He's a really good football player. The Packers lucked out and they got a really good guy in Green Bay. So he's somebody, Wags, right away that I'm circling as I think he makes 53. He's just looked really good in camp so far. And then another guy I want to shout out who was on special or on the practice squad last year, Deslin Alexander. Every day he seems to be making a play, right? Whether it's in the one-on-ones or he's just around the ball really well in some of the 11-on-11. So he's another guy, number 49, those of you that go to camp, who's just looks really active there. So I went with Cox, who's kind of on the roster last season, made waves once the Preston Smith trade happened. I think that he's just growing and getting better. But then somebody like Deslin Alexander, who, again, crowded room, but somebody who's just popping every day in camp and does something well. So those are two guys right now on the the edge rushing side of things. And defensive tackle, it's the two guys from Georgia are really fun to watch. And I'm curious what you think, particularly Naz Stackhouse, man. He's been ridiculous so far in camp, the big man.
Yeah, it's good to see that. And I think some of the guys, quote unquote roster locks, haven't necessarily been making as much noise. I don't know that there's any reason to read into that too much, but certainly it's nice to see that push, at the lower end of that room. I'm going to move over to the cornerback group now and talk about a guy that's definitely going to be on the 53. So not a surprise, but Carrington Valentine, by all accounts, has been playing really good football. And I know Nate Hobbs just got hurt he's going to be back, was making headlines for maybe some of the wrong reasons in a lot of fans' minds early in camp with some of the physicality and some of the things that he was doing. However, regardless of what you think about Nate Hobbs, he's going to be playing a lot of football. I think this is a really good development if Carrington Valentine is playing so well that he locks up one of the cornerback positions on the outside, opposite of Keyshawn Nixon, and that kicks Hobbs inside. Now, I know they paid Hobbs a lot of money, and they're confident that he can be an outside corner. Maybe there's some interchangeability there, but look, for the long-term success of this Packers defense, this team, if Carrington Valentine can be the player that we thought we were seeing when he was in year one, he struggled a little bit at times last year, but if we're getting a more confident and a continually developed Carrington Valentine of what we expected coming out of that year one season for him this season, and he can go out there and lock down an outside cornerback position, I'm going to feel a lot more confident about this secondary going into the season. So I think that's something to be watching for, certainly in a preseason, is he game ready? Is he ready to go as a member of this starting unit? And not just as Hobbs is hurt, he's filling in, but no, he earned a starting position on the outside as a cornerback. So there's lots of options. We've talked about Javon Bullard. He's going to get plenty of looks and opportunities. So I think the more depth and the more competition that we have, the better this looks. I think deeper in the cornerback position group, I think certainly Kalen King has had some moments as well. I don't know that he's shown that he's competing for playing time yet, but I think there's other guys here as you look at this cornerback group that some of the young guys are really stepping up. So I don't know if there's anyone else you wanted to highlight in this cornerback position group, Dane, but what's your overall confidence level now versus maybe what it was earlier in this offseason when we're sitting there saying, who's even there? They're getting rid of Jair. Who else is left? We have no depth. Is it feeling better to you as of today, or are there still, and certainly Corey Ballantyne coming back certainly helps with some of the depth there too. But what are your thoughts on this cornerback group as of now? And is there anyone else that you're really looking to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, Kamal Hayden has been, I think, pretty darn good for them. He was a guy who came in partway through last year. Liked him quite a bit when he has, gets some run there. Wags, I would say, with everybody healthy, the core of Hobbs, Nixon, and Carrington Valentine is pretty good. I like those guys. I really do. I like, we can win a lot of ball games with those three guys. The concern gets if a couple injuries happen, you start to go down, you're leaning on guys, not because they're not talented, but because they're unproven. So that's where I think it's going to be interesting, but also, the Corey Ballantyne signing, I actually really liked Corey Ballantyne in Green Bay. He played some really meaningful defensive snaps for Green Bay a couple seasons ago and kind of bailed Green Bay out, I thought, in some really, really tough situations, played some good football. So he's going to be back here competing, but to your point, there's some young talent, right? There's some young guys on the back end, and I can't help myself. I'm truly rooting for Bo Melton too, Wags. I mean, it's been really interesting to watch this guy. He's athletic as any guy out there. It's pretty remarkable. Not only that, he's making a switch, but it seems like he's playing good ball. So I think it's going to be really telling now when they play preseason games against other teams, right? Because Bo Melton knows the Packers offense. So what's it going to be when we go across the board? But it's fun to watch. But anyway, I mean, it's going to be competitive, and I trust the Packers to keep the best 53. This is going to be a roster where I do expect to have a number of corners on the practice squad as well, ready to be called up and be game ready as needed as the season progresses.
Yeah, I think the Bo Melton, is this for real, will be evident pretty quickly. And I don't think there's no reason to think that he's not capable of going out there and competing, but I certainly we're getting a push that Bo Melton needs to be on this team for special team purposes. And look, I don't want to go back and start having horrible special teams. I think there's arguments that you can be made that their special teams were pretty good outside of field goal kicking last year, and that kind of pulled down some of their special teams rankings. Their coverages seem to be pretty solid. Their return wasn't very good, but nobody's was really very good anymore because of the rules. Here's the thing. I really don't need to have guys that are on this 53-man roster for special team purposes only at this point. I think what I would really prefer is that we get guys that are on this team because of the position they play and they step up and can contribute to special teams. With all respect to Coach Bisaccia, we don't need to play the political game of he needs this or that guy on the team at the sake of someone else that was more deserving and could potentially contribute at that position group over the course of a 17-game season. So I'm not saying they're making those decisions like that in a vacuum, but it certainly will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it sure will. I mean, and that's kind of the joy, I think, of some of this is just kind of, I'm excited for Saturday, right? Some preseason football is going to be a ton of fun. Wags, curious, anybody else standing out to you, whether it's drafted, undrafted, whatever, right? I mentioned a few guys on the defensive side, but just broadly speaking, anybody that's looking the part to you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier, it looks like Mecole Hardman. I don't know how many snaps he's going to get at receiver, but he's going to be on this team. Seems like he's making plays, a lot of the 2-minute drills in camp so far. And what I would really like to keep an eye on is what happens at punt return. Frankly, I would really love to see Mecole Hardman be someone that can be a standout and lock that down. I love Jaden Reed. He needs less work on special teams. I don't want him getting exposed at that position. He's too valuable as a receiver, in my opinion, to be getting, that much work as a return man. So I'd really love to see Mecole Hardman or perhaps someone else as a darker horse, lock down and get more of those return man duties. We know Kayshawn Nixon has said he doesn't want to do it anymore. I respect that. He's going to be, playing an awful lot as a starting cornerback again this season. So that's the guy, and that's the reason they signed him. So I'm really eager to see what he looks like back there and his return looks and opportunities. And it'll be interesting to see if who else gets those opportunities. I technically depth chart released today shows Hardman is third at punt return. Kayshawn Nixon is still the lead guy listed at kick return. So we'll see how that shakes out. But clearly, I think if he's going to be taking up one of those valuable wide receiver slots, and I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens when Christian Watson comes back. Because you look at that right now, it almost looks like Malik Heath could be the odd man out. I don't see the Packers carrying 8 wide receivers on the 53-man roster. Savion Williams isn't going to get cut. So right now they have 7 with Malik Heath, and assuming Christian Watson starts the season on the PUP list. When he comes back, someone's going to be looking over their shoulder and losing that spot. I mean, heck, carrying 7 wide receivers is tough to do in this day and age on a 53-man roster. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do at that wide receiver group. I'm just going to say it. We'll see. Hopefully everyone gets healthy, stays healthy. I don't know that a trade is off the table here either. So we'll see what happens, but they're not going to sign all of these guys either. I mean, you've got Jaden Reed, you've got Romeo Doubs, you've got Christian Watson. You talked about the business side of things. At least one, if not 2 of those guys probably are not going to be in the long-term plans of the Packers organization. So we'll see how that shakes out and if any moves are made on that front as well.
Wags, last question I have for you. So Saturday, full steam ahead. Packers playing real football. What are you most excited about watching preseason football for Green Bay? It can be a player, it can be whatever you want it to be. But what are you going to be looking at? On
Point blank, it's Matthew Golden. I just want to say, I want to see him out there in a game. I'm excited to see that kid get out there and ball. We've seen some clips and some things in practice, but it's time, man. We've got, first round pick, wide receiver. He's hungry. He's out there getting opportunities. That's the guy I want to see out there. That's the one I'm looking most forward to. I'm going to turn it back on you, Dan. Who do you got?
It's Matthew Golden. I want to give you a counter, but it's not. I can't. I want to see Matthew Golden play ball. I mean, we used a first round pick on a wideout, and he looks the part so far. I want to see dude run around the field. So that's 100% with you. I was trying to come up with a counter, but.
On the defensive side, maybe I don't know. I want to see some of those linebackers. It's Tyron Hopper. It's Isaiah Simmons. I want to see some of those guys. I know they're not necessarily I'm excited about our main guys like Edgar Cooper. That's the dude I'm super excited about. But I'm just talking about are some of these other dark horse guys that are getting kind of talked about. Can they step up? Can they win an opportunity? Can this be a truly dynamic part of the starting defense? So it's going to be fun to watch for sure. But those decisions don't necessarily get made in one preseason game. Obviously, all of the practices, all camp goes into that as well. But certainly it's a big opportunity to see what guys can do in game action.
Yeah. Wags, it's football season's upon us. I mean, so we got a preseason game Saturday. Should we do this again next week? Should we talk more Packer football after another preseason game? I mean, it's about that time.
Yeah, I think we might have to, because chances are we're going to have just spilling with thoughts after being able to watch that game. So, Dane, I'll be ready. I'll be on call, folks. Thanks so much for jumping on. I know we haven't really been in a particular cadence as far as when we're on doing these podcasts. It's been a minute since we've done one, but as season starts ramping up here, we'll definitely make this a more regular show. So thank you so much.
Wags, John says 31-10 pack. So
okay.
we're
big shocker. Yeah. John, talk about consistency. The consistency was the theme tonight. John Stone, you delivered. So for that, I appreciate you, and you are truly legendary. So thank you for that. All right, folks, I think that does it. I think it's a wrap for tonight. As always, be legendary and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack Go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will